No, just me today.
All right.
We appreciate y'all coming
Well,
out.
we thank you so much, and it looks like you got a nice lunch back there. We appreciate it. And as far as the commissioners, I think Jeff Britton, Johnny just got a text that he might be late. He might have had an emergency due to the storm, so I don't know if he's going to make it today or not. But so with that, all the commissioners are here except Jeff, and Jeff could pop in later. That takes us down to, if you would turn your electronic devices off if they're on, and our next item is the approval of the agenda. And with that, I'll be happy to accept the motion to approve the agenda as printed. And as you see on your agenda, Danny had supplemental information, and that is already posted on our consent agenda. So with that, I'll be happy to accept the motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
All right, thank you, Maynard. You all are Maynard. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. We have two presentations today. The first one is an update from Partners Behavioral Health Management. You're going to do that today?
Yes, so you want me on the hot seat?
Sure, right there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and other members of the committee. I am grateful for the opportunity to kind of give you an update on some of the things that have been going on in the community. I'll project very loudly, so I'm good. So I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things that we have done in Burke County in the calendar year of 2015. So we've expended over $28.8 million, $25,493,636 were Medicaid dollars expended on services, treatment services here in the county. $3,388,140,000 were state dollars. Of those individuals receiving treatment, 30.68% had mental health needs that were addressed. 14.49% had substance use needs that were addressed, and 54.84% had intellectual and developmental disability needs that were addressed. Burke is the fourth of our 8 counties in the amount expended for substance use services. And I know that's a hot issue now and a growing epidemic in the communities, and we are aggressively working to address that problem. In each of our 8 counties, including Burke, we have an adult and child collaborative. These groups meet monthly, and they're comprised of community stakeholders, agencies, and family members. They identify a specific mental health need in the community, and they work throughout the year to achieve that need. Some initiatives that have occurred were the purchase of 100 medication boxes to try to combat some of the prescription abuse that occurs within the county. We've provided mental health first aid training, both adult and child, youth. We've provided that to school personnel, to housing authorities, to churches, and various members of the community. We've provided crisis intervention team training for law enforcement and training on child sexual abuse prevention. We've also hosted forums with some of our stakeholders that we collaborate with. Dinner, dessert, and discussion was a recent event to bring awareness to the mental health, substance use, and intellectual and developmental disability issues in the county. With some of the Medicaid savings that we've had, we are reinvesting in the communities throughout our 8 counties. Part of that will be distributed in Burke with ongoing support of the Burke Integrated Health Center here that treats individuals with needs. We're expanding on facility-based crisis for adults, but we're also developing 2 for children that Burke residents will be able to access. We're also offering to increase collaboration with key stakeholders like social services by integrating one of our staff members in with their staff so they can have a better understanding of mental health services within the county and how to navigate that system and how individuals meet medical necessity to receive those services. So that in a nutshell gives you just a glimpse of some of the things we've been doing. Are there any questions?
Sure, thank you, Chair. Questions for Tara?
No, good report.
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Without objection, that'll stay on the agenda as a presentation. The next one is the county manager revised animal ordinance. And this is something that's been going on for quite a while, and I think this is Brian, but he's got an update on this and the process we're going to go through on the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You're aware that we are looking at revising the code of ordinances, especially the one related to animal control. I've been working with the sheriff and the county attorney and county staff about possible revisions, and we're going to have two drafts for you to look at as well as the public. The sheriff has one that has a perspective from theirs, from implementation, and some things that his sheriff thinks needs to be in it versus things he thinks maybe shouldn't be. Again, the county has another version that's a little bit different. But what I would offer to the board is that we would do a short presentation at our regular meeting, then place these draft ordinances on the county's website, available for public inspection and comment for a period of at least 60 days. I don't think we want to rush anybody. I think we want to give folks an opportunity. Of course, you know, this is a summer. So what I was thinking about is maybe let it be on our website through September, and then try to arrange for a workshop for the board to come and have a sit down and really go through this, in addition to whatever comments that we receive, suggested changes that we receive, to have that available for you. So the public has plenty of opportunity for involvement. We'll go through the workshop and then decide what the board wants to do. This is not going to be a 5-minute deal. It's complex. There's lots of things here to consider. So I want folks and the board to be very comfortable with the process, very open to the public. But that would be what I would think. And if the board decides that the interaction with public comments is to the point where you decide maybe we need to let it run 90 days, whatever y'all are comfortable with, so that we get a good ordinance that does the job that the board is wanting to see the ordinance accomplish, in conjunction with the sheriff and his officers as well. In some of my discussions with the sheriff, this is a little bit of an aside to this, but our current building is probably seen its better days, and it is going to be something I think we will need to begin looking at a replacement plan for that facility, and how this ordinance ties into that, as far as what kind of capacity do you need to have, what kind of relationships do we have with other agencies to try to help adopt animals. That's I think one of the things that we would like to see is fewer euthanasia and more adoption. And again, I think the drafts give you some different things to look at, and I'm confident that the sheriff is committed, as well as county staff, to getting a good ordinance, and one that is enforceable. The last thing you want to do is have an ordinance that they have difficulty enforcing. So anyways, that's where I am, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if there's any questions.
Well, we just thank you, Brian. The main thing, and I think you mentioned, is that the public will have plenty of time for input on this. And like you say, if it takes 90 days, we want to get it right this time, and that's the most important thing. And I appreciate you building that into that, because I mean, it's really important. There's a lot of, we hear as commissioners from the public every day, so I appreciate that. Any questions for Brian on this process or whatever? And
Mr. Chairman, I have one, but I think he answered it. Was that meeting workshop going to be open to the public, or just open?
Yeah. Like I said, you're covering a lot of ground. You're going to need to have time to go through this and really look at it and hear the input from people and look at the issues from implementation. So yeah, if you need 2 workshops, whatever it takes, so that the board is comfortable and gets it massaged to the point that the board is comfortable with it and is ready to move forward with adoption and implementation.
Well, I think we've all got calls with it. One of them that I did want to make a comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is one of them was just gun-ho that you can't have tethering, and then look on the TV and I watch those police dogs go through the airports and everywhere else. that's a form of tethering. I mean, you know, and that's part of discipline a dog. And I tried to explain that to her, and she didn't want to agree with it. But anyhow, I think all those things will be brought up in that, and happy to know it's going to be open. But the fact that it's going to be on our website for 2 months should give everybody ample time to respond to it.
Good, thank you, Maynard. Jack?
The only other thing I have is that municipalities, are they going to be involved in this?
That, Mr. Attorney, you want to give some guidance on that?
The city of Morganton, of course, has its own animal ordinance. The other municipalities would be governed by the county unless they had adopted an exempting ordinance of their own.
Well, they're kind of different from the rural part of the county. So they probably have different issues than some of the other people have. So I would think they should be granted the say in this if they choose to do so. And if they don't, put it in writing, they don't want to mess with it or whatever. That's all I have.
It would really be nice, Brian, you know, I've talked to the other commissioners, but, you know, last year we did the EMS center, did that for cash. This year we're going to do the senior center, and that's going to be cash. So it'd be nice if we could start thinking maybe about, again, if our fund balance holds up, that we, this control issue in the facility is really, I mean, we've been talking for that probably 20 years now, and that'd be nice. And I forget which county I was looking at. They just built a new facility, and they used a big metal building and whatever. And I don't know if it was that costly. I'm sure, you know, but whatever. But that would be sure something, if our fund balance held up, that we maybe would be a great project. I mean, since it's been, again, like the thing down at Hildebrand, it's been ongoing for 15, 20 years now, that we could address in our next budget, maybe.
I'm right there with you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. The building that we have is, well, I
So
know
long
it's-
overdue. It's
yeah,
long
yeah.
overdue. And what is the split right now with Morganton on that facility and the county? There's a split?
Yeah, I think they pay 15%.
What?
I think it's 15%.
Yeah, all right. Any other questions for Brian or staff? All right, that'll stay on the agenda without objection. This takes us into our consent agenda, and we really don't have any decision items today, so it's all on consent. And the first thing is the designation of a voting delegate for the annual conference, and that's going to be on August 11th to 14th in Forsyth County. And Johnny or Maynard, do you remember if that is the voting? Does that take place like on a morning? Saturday morning.
During business session.
And I probably won't be there, but if one of you gentlemen want to be the designate.
Well, protocol usually goes first to the chairman, second to the vice chairman. If neither
Well,
one of
Jeff
those
is
is going
not
to be
going.
there.
Jeff's not going, so
I thought Jeff was.
it just says Wayne, Johnny, and Maynard.
Okay.
But
Johnny, would you like to do that?
I will if you want me to.
good.
I make a motion that Johnny Cargill be our voting delegate.
All right, so that'll stay on the agenda. We'll just leave it with Johnny going to be the designee. All right, item 2 under consent, K, appointment to Child Protection and Child Fatality Prevention Team.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Seat number 3, parent with a child under the age of 18. On the Child Protection and Child Fatality Prevention Team is vacant. An application was received from Kathy Smith. The co-chair of this committee recommends that Ms. Smith be appointed for a 3-year term ending April 30th, 2019. Ms. Smith is a Caldwell County resident but works in Morganton, so we'll need an exception to the residency provision in the Code of Ordinances. That's section 2.88. So we request that she be appointed for a 3-year term.
Any comments on that?
Mr. Chairman, I noticed she's from out of, and they acknowledge that, and Cadence acknowledged that She doesn't live in Burke County, and she's fine with me. It looks like she is qualified. But just for the sake of information, do we favor somebody in Burke County if you had another applicant to fill it?
This seat, we would if they had a child under the, if they met the criteria.
Everything matched, you would choose it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? All right, I think item 3 is K2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a reappointment, removal to the Western Piedmont Council of Government Regional Aging Advisory Committee. The county appoints 4 members to this 16-member committee. The Aging Director, Tina Miller, requests the reappointment of Karen Robinson to seat number 1 for a 2-year term, and the removal of Rosemary Onasorge. She has served the maximum number of terms allowed.
All right, thank you, Kay. Any comments on that?
What happens to Rosemary's suit?
They'll be looking for a replacement. We just didn't have anybody yet.
Anything else? All right, without objection, that'll stay on the agenda. 4, Kay again.
This is the reappointments to the Western Piedmont Regional Transportation Authority. Our manager, Mr. Steen, and Scott Carpenter, our planning director, deputy county manager, serves on this committee. Both members desire reappointment. The term is for 3 years. Mr. Steen fills seat number 2, and Scott is seat number 3, the alternate.
Comments or questions for Kay? All right, without objection, that'll stay on the agenda. Number 5, general services, MSD online contract. Chris?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Last year, the safety committee was looking for a tool to manage the SDS sheets in each of our facilities. Would ideally wanted something that would be more mobile, that would serve the folks in the EMS and the Sheriff's Department better, and our staff that's in the fields. One of the tools I'd used in a previous life was MSDS Online, so I introduced that at a safety committee, and it sort of caught wildfire. We put that in the budget last year, and it was approved. However, the contract is for a 3-year period and needs to be approved by the board for the 3 years. So rather than do it at the end of last year, we waited till the budget was over and come back now and ask you to authorize us to execute each of those 3 years. And I think, Paul, if I'm right, we would go ahead and allocate the money each of the 3 years to be spent for that.
Yeah, I mean, if the board approves it, then it'll just be a continuing contract and including funding for next ye's. And it really saves, by doing a 3-year deal, it saves money.
20% more to do a single,
Yeah.
a significant amount.
Other comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have one under the terms and conditions. There's 3 parts to this contract: HQ account, site administration, and implementation services. On the implementation service, it's included in year 1, it's omitted in year 2 and 3. Is that an oversight, needs to be corrected, or?
No, it's a one-time implementation. You only do that one time. That's just to get us, create our account, get us established on, it's a web-based thing.
So it's not necessary for year 2?
Correct. It's not something you do
No.
ever again unless you add a chemical that you didn't have before, which you do internally.
No other question, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments,
How
questions?
many MSDS sheets do we have, roughly?
I'd have to do that.
The reason is, this is the best thing to do.
I'll answer another question instead of answering that question. There are millions of MSDS sheets available to us through MSDS Online. And one of the things that our Assistant Fire Chief and Mr. Curry, the EMS Director, both liked a lot, and Mr. Henseman, both from the Sheriff's Department, both liked, all the group liked a lot. If they come up on a chemical in the field, and they've never seen the chemical before, if they can get a description of it or a name or a component, they can go to the website on their laptop, in the car, or in the ambulance and search that chemical and see how to dispose of it, handle it, leave it alone, who to call.
And EMS will have contact too, so they can go in for first aid emergency services, correct?
Exactly right. How that works is you get an account called Burke County. and then each department will have its own little area. So if you just want to look at chemicals that maintenance uses, glyphosate, that you just look in your little area, you don't see all the things that the medical side of the county's business would need. And the folks in the medical side could see, they may need to see glyphosate, so they would be able to see some things that we wouldn't need to. And it helps. You don't have to rifle through so many papers if you just deal with a small set of chemicals.
Mr. Chairman, I would certainly support this. We dedicated a full-time person just to do MSDS sheets at the prison when I worked there.
I used it in the city of Durham, but we used it across the entire city. It was very, very handy. What's nice is that all these remote sites, like the EMS base across the street, all have access to a computer. They have access to the MSDS sheets.
Other comments, questions for Chris? All right, thank you, Chris. And without objection, that'll stay on the agenda. JCPC approval of pass-through funding for Barium Springs Home for Children. Is AJ here? Brian, you want to comment on that, or?
Let's see.
It's a consent item.
Yeah, because I know Rebecca's mother-in-law passed away, and I thought AJ was going to be here. Yes, DPS released alternative to commitment funding award for fiscal 2016-17, and Barium Springs Home Remedies has been awarded $86,675 to provide services in the 25th Judicial District. According to the program agreement, and as in previous years, Burke County is selected as the lead county. Consequently, the funding from DPS will be dispersed to Burke County Finance for Children's Hope, Alliance Home Remedies, and these are pass-through funds to carry out services administered through the JCPC program. So they got.
I'm sure AJ will be here at our regular meetings, so if there's any questions or comments, we can ask them at the same time. Without objection, again, that'll stay on the agenda. And everything else now is Danny, and the first thing is the Tax Department EMS collections for May 2016.
Afternoon, gentlemen. Looks like EMS collections through May, we've collected $2,673,683.74, which is almost 87% of our budget.
Any comments or questions for Danny on EMS? All right, without objection, that will stay on the agenda. Tax Department release refund report for June 2016.
This is part of the packet that Kay just handed out to you. We have the releases on the tax system, $4,983.86, refunds of $373.33. On the VTS, which is the vehicle tax system, we have adjustments which create refunds of $234.46 and proration adjustments, which are refunds for $575.13. And each one of those are within that packet.
Comments, questions for Danny? All right, without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. The next thing, tax collection report for June 2016.
Okay, that also is in that packet. You'll see the breakdown of the motor vehicle and the property tax. And it looks like property tax, we've collected 102% of our budget. Motor vehicle, almost 105% of the budget. Delinquent taxes, we're at 114% of budget, and late list penalty, those items, 110% of budget.
Good report. That's good.
They've done a good job.
Comments or questions for Danny on that? That was a real good report. All right, late application for veteran exclusion.
Okay, the way the application exists for the veterans exclusion or the age exclusion is the period to apply is January 2nd through June 1st of each year. So in the event an application does come in late, I do not have the authority to accept or deny it. So I have to bring it to the board if the applicant would like to do that. So in this case, this is Mr. Harrison. He is eligible for the veterans exclusion. Should he have applied timely, he was 1 day late, it would have been approved, no question about it. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions. I've got down here the It's minimal budgetary effect. It'd be the taxes on $45,000 and the landfill user fee.
Comments or questions for Danny on that?
I think we're supposed to say yes.
I think so too.
I would make the motion that we accept.
All right, so that'll stay on consent, and
And I will inform him of that, or have second.
good, thank you, Danny. Again, we don't have any decision items, but the first thing, we do have a report, and this is a presentation on the fire district lines. And again, Danny, you're presenting.
Late May, one of the fire chiefs questioned the way that we do parcels that cross fire district lines. So in other words, if you've got a fire district line and this parcel sits on it like this, how do we tax that? Which fire district does it go into? And of course, the fire district lines, we can't change them. They're established by the board. And so I just put a couple bullet points down here. But what it boils down to is what we take that fire district, whichever district the majority of the land is in is where we tax it. Regardless of, any other outbuildings or buildings or anything like that, we've always looked at that. That's been a policy we've had in effect, unwritten policy, I will say, but been in effect since before I've been here, before Scott was here, so it's been over 25 years. And the county manager may want to comment a little bit more on this.
Yeah, this is a practice that's been in place for decades, and the way they've been awarding the revenue is the fire district that most of the property lies in. Now, I think there can be an occasion where if you had a 4-acre plot and on 1/4 of that acre you had a $500,000 home, well, that's a different little ballgame than vacant land or something smaller like that. And I think at that point in time, Danny does take a special review of it to decide what are you really trying to protect. You're trying to protect the home. So that's probably where the biggest value is, and that's where whichever department that lies in is where the revenues would generally go. And I think the chief that had this concern was just wanting to have something a little more tangible than just Danny saying that's the way we did it. So I thought about bringing it to this board just for pre-agenda. I don't know that there's any need for the board to take this on to the actual meeting. But for the board to be aware of this, it is a practice. It's been going on for decades. For staff to have to go through and follow the actual contours of property lines, you could get into a great deal of staff time and cost, and I'm not sure the benefit really outweighs the gain, what it costs us to do that. So if the board doesn't have a concern with us continuing this practice, then we'll just record it in the meeting minutes for pre-agenda and just let it continue. If the board feels differently, then we'll do whatever the board wants us to do.
Danny, does this, in your many years of service, does this happen often? I mean, that you get a request or?
We've had a couple requests where maybe a fire chief has said, hey, the house is over here on my side. We'll look at it on a one individual basis and make whatever changes necessary. But to go through the whole county and do that, I would dare say you'd be looking at probably 1,500 parcels that you'd have to do something special. If you look at the little map that I put, that gives you an idea of how big it is. This map just shows the particular line. And you'd have to do that for all fire districts.
Comments or questions for Danny? So I guess we'll just leave this for information only.
Yes, sir. If the board is comfortable and wants to say, this is work, there's not a problem, and we'll just let it continue on as a practice.
Mr. Chairman, I think it works and has worked for years. No use to make anything out of it.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Danny.
Okay,
And again, this is for information only. This won't be on our July agenda. Brock, update on the completion of the GIS validation assistance project closeout. Again, this is just more or less to receive a report from Brock, and this does not really have to be on the July 18th agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think well, obviously, you all are aware we've been working on this since about December. And I brought Deb with me because she's been dealing with this from the beginning as well, and she can answer any technical questions better than I can. But obviously, she's been working with Mission Critical to get all of the 43,000 addresses in the county verified, making sure they're in need of compliance, making sure that they're mapping and plotting like they're supposed to, and then the ones that aren't, correcting those, adjusting the road center lines, and then developing some SOPs that we're currently using. We've forwarded to our county GIS plus Valdez and Morgan and GIS as well. So it was a project that if she had to take it on herself, it probably would have taken her a couple of years. But they were able to get it done in about 6 months. So do you have specific questions about the project?
Questions for Rob?
We'll let Deb kind of give you a rundown of what she did with it if you want. Yeah, come on, you sit up here. You can talk to her.
Put Debbie on the hot spot.
Yeah, okay. Well, most of y'all that don't know me, I'm Deborah. I'm the GIS SAG specialist for Burke County. And when I first started, the undertaking to do what Mission Critical did in 6 months would have taken me 2, maybe 3 years to do, because they had to go in and they had to put in our CAD cities, they had to put the ESNs in, which is the emergency service number that is important when a phone call comes in, that it matches it up with the street. So that was a given. And when I first started, none of them had any ESNs on them. Center lines also now have ESNs on them. So in the course of what I'm doing now is going in and using the aerial photography and checking road by road to make sure that our center lines are on the center line based on our aerial photography.
What's the purpose of the center line? What does it do?
In some cases, it delineates what fire district goes to a fire. And it's not all cases, but there are some cases where it splits the line down the center line. And if it's not correct, then if the property line is like this and your center line's here, and if that line, that arrow, when it plots, falls here, it may go into another fire department, therefore they get sent when the fire department on this side should be sent. So it saves a lot of headache on their end and knowing what fire department to dispatch when the call comes in.
Other comments,
In
questions?
comparing the two systems before and after,
Oh,
how did it help us?
It improved the response time because I didn't have to look for an address. So now when a call comes in, for instance, it's 7566 Spain Hill Road. Well, when they put that address in there, before the arrow that shows them where the call come from, used to just fall at the center line of the road. Now it falls on that exact address. So there's no guesswork. They don't have to tell them you have to go to the end of the road, third house on the left. They know exactly where it's showing.
So the responders would have better chances of
Exactly.
answering that call no matter where it is?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may use my own example and a question of what's the process to get it corrected?
Well, normally what happens is if the call comes in and it does not verify, then they print out documentation and they bring the documentation to me, and then I do the research to find out why it didn't plot. And once I figure it out and I fix it, it's just a matter of updating a file from GIS to CAD and then converting it. And once I convert it and push it into the comm center, then they have all the updated information kind of like that.
Well, in my example, in 1972, I bought 2.5 acres from my dad. They gave me the address 3095 Taylor Avenue, which is supposed to be on the right side of the road. 1984, my dad deceased in 83, I bought acreage from the family, from the estate. And now they have that assigned to the estate. Now, we've been living like this real good and free for 30, 40 years. All of a sudden, we get a nasty letter from our bank loan, which we owe less than $10,000. I don't understand why I'm so interested now, but anyhow, the loan is on that vacant land
Right, instead of being on where it's supposed to be.
So how do I get, and
How
I've
do you
been
get that
noticed.
fixed? You go see Scott.
Yeah, we see that occasionally.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, well, they'll let me know first, and if it's something that I see that Scott may need to work on, then I usually send him an email with documentation, and he can normally verify whether it's right or not. So he's usually the first person I start with.
well, they were quick to point out to me if I defaulted on my loan, they could not take my house, they could take
Take your land.
But I need to get that fixed.
But it's a good working relationship between the GIS department and our department. So yeah, we work kind of close together when that happens. And then if it's a new road, then Scott sends me the details and I put the new road in with the new addresses. And then once I update, then I push it through to the comm center, then they have it automatically as well.
Other comments, questions?
One more, Mr. Chairman, if I don't mind. Backup systems and the chances of this system going down.
Very unlikely unless the building blows up. Because we have it backed up. As a matter of fact, we have it backed up on our server. It gets backed up every day, so that's not an issue.
Good. All right, anything else? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion items before the board? If not, I just, again, want to thank Jimmy for hosting us and for all you that have been on the commission for years. This is it's one of my favorite things when we go out to the different municipalities and different areas in the county, and we sort of got away from that, and this is the first time we got out this year, and I hope that we have more of these meetings, especially pre-agenda out in the field, and it's just it's great to get out here with the municipalities and have this time of fellowship and have our meetings. So again, Mayor, thank you so much, and I want to invite everybody. You put out a heck of a spread here. Everybody from the audience, please help yourself to sandwiches. There's drinks and whatever. And with that, I'll be happy to accept the motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and let's have a little fellowship.